Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. Previously, Himeragi Yukina takes it upon herself to keep tabs on the Fourth Progenitor, Akatsuki Kojo. He soon finds out about this, but they come to a friendly agreement of letting her observe him. The two find themselves tangled with Combat Deacon, who ends up beheading Kojo in front of Himeragi. The story continues as Asagi Aiba is in her office when she feels the building shake and the systems warn that the place is under attack. After taking care of Kojo, the Combat Deacon is tearing his way inside the man-made island management corporation. Elsewhere, Himeragi is trying to wake an unconscious Kojo. He responds to her voice and wakes up as she explains that he was dead, but his wounds started to heal themselves enough to bring him back. She starts to bicker with him about his rash actions, making it clear that nobody would be sad if someone like her were to die. He is swayed by her emotions and pushes her down, whispering about how she matters more than she thinks. Their moment is brought to a halt when the building shakes again, and he finds out that Asagi might be in trouble as Keystone Gate is under attack. He calls her to confirm that most of the defense is gone and the building is almost done. She tells him that criminals were on their way to the anchor block, and upon researching, she finds out something that piques everyone's worry. Himeragi and Kojo prepare to go after them, but he is unsure of his abilities, thinking that it may not be the right choice. Surprisingly enough, Himeragi offers her blood to him, advising him to unlock his full potential and aid her in the fight against the Deacon. He refuses initially, saying that he may not even want to get into a fight in the first place. She calls him out for lying and convinces him that he is a good person and he must make the right decision. After a bit of clarification, he pulls her close and licks a drop of blood from a small cut on her neck. Kojo's vampiristic instincts kick in, and he then begins to bury his fangs on her neck, sucking more than just a drop this time. Meanwhile, the Deacon has already made his way to the treasure and is about to declare his triumph. His moment is interrupted by Kojo, who talks about the body of a saint stored in a pod and how the Deacon was after it the whole time. The Deacon clarifies that the saint was used as a human sacrifice by Itogami Senra, which was crucial in the making of Itogami Island. He tells Kojo to back off and tells him that the fight is between the city and the church, and he has nothing to do with it. Kojo asks him if it was worth it to risk the lives of everyone on the island, but the Deacon tells him that in the grand scheme of things, such a small number makes no difference. The negotiations go nowhere, and Deacon commands Astarte to attack, leaving Kojo without any choice. This time, things are a bit different since Kojo now has control of his familiars and their powers, and he seems more than confident. The two begin to clash, with Himeragi going against Astarte and Kojo fighting the Deacon himself. The Deacon realizes the challenge and unleashes his full power, revealing a golden armor made of energy. Seeing the scale of the battle, Kojo decides to not hold back and unleashes a bunch of explosive magic, putting the whole city on notice. Thanks to his assistance, Himeragi gets enough time to harness the full power of her spear. They attack Astarte together, finally breaking through her defenses. After she is brought down, it doesn't take much for them to knock out the Deacon as well. The seriousness in the air is brought into check when Kojo takes a small sniff of Himeragi's neck before proceeding to suck Astarte's blood instead. Elsewhere, we see Yaze reporting to a talking crow, revealing himself as more than just a normal high schooler. The crow points out that Himeragi's purpose was always to be Kojo's lover, and not someone who would observe him for the sake of a mission. Himeragi prepares to leave her place, thinking she had failed her mission of keeping Kojo in check. Luckily, she gets her weapon sent back to her good as new, indicating that her mission was far from over. Natsuki is out in the field taking care of a humanoid panther. Seeing her power, he recognizes her as the Witch of the Void. She also mentions that he was there working under Christopher Gardos. Back home, Kojo gets news that his mother was coming to visit them. He enters the room to ask Nagisa about it, but accidentally walks in on Himeragi changing clothes. Nagisa later tells him that she was there for some measurements, and that the girls are preparing for a cheerleader position since the entire class asked them to do so. Asagi talks to Kojo about the upcoming sports and asks him what event he was planning to play in. He talks in a very non-enthusiastic manner, planning to go with whatever the class had decided for him. They enter the class together, only to see that Asagi and Kojo have been paired together to play badminton. She is a bit surprised to see this happening, but doesn't protest, whereas Kojo seems perfectly fine with it. Meanwhile, Natsuki is still in her investigation of Christopher Gardos, and doesn't take long to expose one of his informants. The criminal unveils himself as an unregistered demon, but Astarte, who now works under Natsuki, makes quick work of him. She looks deep into Gardos' movements and isn't really sure what he was trying to achieve. Asagi changes into her sportswear, and a friend compliments her looks, telling her that Kojo might appreciate it a little too much. Kojo decides to leave the training facility after seeing that Asagi was late. He heads out to get a drink but is attacked by two unknown familiars. He hesitates from using his power, but Himeragi arrives just in time to take control of the situation. Himeragi explains that those lion-like beasts were Shikigami, who are mostly messengers and aren't meant to attack anyone. He picks up an envelope left by someone, but before Himeragi can explain it, Asagi comes in and misunderstands their position. Himeragi later tells him that the envelope was from Lord Dimitri Voltaire. She points out that Voltaire is a key figure of the warlord dominion located in Eastern Europe. Based on past events, she anticipates that Voltaire is most likely a subordinate of the First Progenitor. She clarifies that he cannot be a principality without being pure-blooded vampire, meaning Voltaire belongs to the lineage of First Progenitor. The message in the envelope invited Kojo to a specific party and clearly mentioned for him to bring a partner. She tells him that it's a common trend to have a partner or lover accompany you when it comes to parties in the West. He is in a bit of a pinch since Asagi and Nagisa aren't valid choices. He initially intends to take Natsuki with him, but after a small tussle with Himeragi, she offers to go with him. Her decision is made, but she is still unsure about wearing a party dress as she doesn't have one with her. Much to their convenience, a package is found laying inside their room from the Lion King organization. He opens it to see a dress with a card mentioning the measurements of the dress itself. After reading it out loud, both of them realize that those are the measurements of Himeragi, and she suspects it is one of his perverted little games. Before long, the two of them find themselves in Oshina's grave, where a party boat had been parked. Kojo attends the place dressed in a suit, and Himeragi is still a bit embarrassed about her dress. She asks if she looks okay, but points her spear toward him every time he tries to comment or reply to her questions. While they are having their conversation, discussing each other's appearances, someone from the boat watches over with a disturbed expression. They finally head inside and realize how completely out of place they are in comparison to other attendants. They keep up their search for the host, the First Progenitor, but then someone randomly attacks the two. Voltaire reveals himself from the dark with a formal introduction and tells Kojo how pleased he was to meet him. He addresses Kojo as Khalid Blood, recognizing his position as the Fourth Progenitor. They don't get time for anything else as Kojo gets attacked by Sayaka Kurosaka. She tells him to get away from Himeragi. Sayaka turns out to be a childhood friend of Himeragi, and she is surprised to see her there of all places. She explains that much like Himeragi herself, Sayaka was sent as the observer of Voltaire, and even the party invitation was her plan. Himeragi officially introduces Sayaka as a war dancer of the Lion King organization, and a former roommate of hers. Sayaka makes her position clear and threatens Kojo about being close to Himeragi. Asagi is in her room talking to Yaze about the recent incident involving Kojo. She clearly misinterpreted the envelope as a confession and tells Yaze that his romantic life is none of her business. He tells her that she shouldn't keep herself in distance and even advises her to use seduction to win Kojo's heart. Voltaire recognizes the familiar inside of Kojo and tells him that it once belonged to Aurora. She is shocked to know that Voltaire knew about Aurora, to which Voltaire says that not only did he know her, but they were lovers once. As such, Voltaire insists that Kojo would allow him to express some of his love since he is the one who inherited her powers and consumed her blood. Himeragi breaks the awkwardness and gets straight to the point, asking if the invitation had a point. She asks him if he was really willing to form a bond with the Fourth Progenitor. He makes it clear that his feelings are completely friendly and he wishes for an alliance. He also mentions another reason, that being Christophe Gardos. Voltaire tells him that he had assassinated the former leader of the Black Death Emperor faction, but they had now chosen Gardos as their new leader. The situation is much dire than they thought, as Voltaire confirms that Gardos had already infiltrated the island along with some of his underlings. Sayaka explains that their goal is to have the Sacred Treaty revoked and basically throw the First Progenitor out of power by taking over the warlord's domain. Voltaire makes it clear that he doesn't want to end Gardos once and for all, but doesn't plan to keep quiet if he starts to make things personal. The discussion leans more towards a situation where Kojo would be the one responsible to take down Gardos. Himeragi realizes the probable danger in this and volunteers to deal with Gardos in place of the Fourth Progenitor. The next day, Kojo wakes up only to see Asagi close to him since she is now trying to seduce him. He tries to shake her off, telling her it was foolish to try such methods. They fumble and he accidentally gets on top of her just when Nagi and Himeragi enter the room. Himeragi doesn't really react to this and leaves them to it. Seeing her reaction, Asagi asks him what Himeragi really meant to him. She even calls him out, suspecting that Himeragi had some dirt on him and was forcing him into things. All of this was being closely observed by Sayaka, who isn't very happy about the life Himeragi has been living, mostly because it has so much to do with Kojo. He later tries to talk with Himeragi, trying to explain the incident. She understands and tells him to be careful since moments like those are prone to making his vampire instances activate. They set their personal matters out for a while and head to Natsuki, hoping to gather crucial information on the Black Death Emperor faction. She directly asks her if she had any information related to a man known as Christophe Gardos. Natsuki asks why they were so eagerly after him, to which she replies that they have to capture Gardos before he makes contact with Voltaire. Astarte offers them some tea while they are there, surprising the duo as they were not expecting Natsuki to own her. Natsuki clarifies that Voltaire is more than capable of handling himself and that the Black Death Emperor poses no threat to him. She makes it clear that Gardos is not for them to catch. She explains their goal to be an ancient weapon called Nala Kavera, which is a pointless effort according to Natsuki because it isn't usable. Nala Kavera is reportedly stolen even before they were having this conversation, but Natsuki isn't worried because the weapon is simply beyond understanding. The main agenda in Natsuki's case now is to try and find the weapon rather than Gardos himself. Before they leave, she warns Kojo about Voltaire, and he may attempt to consume him for the Fourth Progenitor's powers. Upon hearing this, he talks to himself about controlling his familiars better, to which Himeragi asks if he would like to take her blood again. He declines of course, but she leaves in a sour mood as if she was looking for a positive reply. Kojo talks to Asagi about Nala Kavera, and they head to the student council room, all while Yaze keeps his tabs on them. They find out about Nala Kavera and how it is a biological weapon, but before they can learn any more, someone enters the room. Thanks to hiding together for a while, Kojo starts to bleed as he was up close with Asagi. They head to the rooftop in an attempt to calm him down. Just then, Sayaka arrives, unable to bear his behavior anymore. She is angry about how he has been treating Himeragi and cuts his stomach enough for his power to leak in front of Asagi. Thanks for watching part 2. Future parts will be in the link comment below.